They text you good morning. They remember the tiny thing you said 3 weeks ago. They look at you like you're the only person in the room. And then, nothing. No text for 2 days, short replies, suddenly busy, suddenly distant. If you've ever sat there staring at your phone, replaying the last conversation in your head, trying to figure out what you did wrong, I need you to hear this. You didn't do anything wrong. There is a very specific, very predictable psychological pattern behind this behavior, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in their head when they pull away, why it has almost nothing to do with you, and how to tell the difference between someone who's scared and someone who's just not that into you. Stay with me because reason number 4 is the one nobody talks about, and it's probably the one that applies to you. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, this channel is where we break down the psychology of attraction, connection, and why people do the confusing things they do, without the sugarcoating and without the fairy tale. Before we get into it, if you've ever felt confused by someone who seemed so into you and then vanished, hit subscribe right now. I post videos like this every week, and honestly, this is the kind of thing you're going to want to rewatch later, trust me. Okay, let's get into it. Here's what makes this so painful. It's not rejection. Rejection is clean. Rejection you can grieve and move on from. This is different. This is someone who gives you real signals, eye contact that lingers, questions that feel genuine, effort. And then, right when things start to feel real, they retreat. Psychologists call this an approach avoidance conflict. It's not a contradiction in their feelings, it is their feelings. Two opposite pulls happening in the same nervous system at the same time. The pull toward closeness and the pull toward self-protection. And here's the part that changes everything. The intensity of the pull away is often directly proportional to the intensity of the pull toward. In plain English, the more they actually like you, the scarier it can feel, and the harder they might retreat. That doesn't mean every disappearing act is secretly love. We're going to talk about the difference. But if you've been telling yourself they clearly don't care, I want you to at least consider that the opposite might be just as true. Let me paint a picture because I think you'll see yourself in this. Two people meet. The chemistry is immediate, the kind of conversation that goes on for hours without either person checking the time. Messages flow easily for the first couple of weeks. Then one night, there's a real moment, a vulnerable conversation. Something honest gets said. And the next day, silence. Not dramatic silence, just colder. Shorter replies, a sudden so busy with work that wasn't there before. The person left wondering assumes the worst. I said too much. I scared them off. I wasn't interesting enough. But here's what was actually happening on the other side. That vulnerable moment didn't feel bad. It felt too good. And when something feels that good, that fast, a very old, very automatic system in the brain quietly whispers, this could hurt me. So the retreat isn't about you losing value in their eyes. It's about the moment gaining too much weight, too fast, for their nervous system to feel safe holding it. If this is already hitting close to home, tap that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people who need to hear it, and it takes 2 seconds. Let's break this down properly, reason by reason, starting with the most common one. Interest creates exposure. The moment someone admits, even just to themselves, I really like this person, they've handed over something. Power, leverage, the possibility of being hurt. For people with what psychologists call an avoidant attachment style, closeness itself can register almost like a threat. Not consciously. They're not sitting there thinking, I must sabotage this. It's closer to an itch under the skin, a restlessness that shows up right when things are going well. You'll notice the timing is almost always the same. Things escalate, intimacy deepens, and then, right at the peak, they create distance. It's not because the good moment ended, it's because the good moment worked, and now they need air. Here's the trap for you though. If you chase in that moment, you often confirm the exact fear that triggered the retreat. That closeness equals losing yourself, losing space, losing control. And if you disappear too, they sometimes come back, misreading their own relief as proof you weren't that important after all. It's a cruel little loop. And most people never learn the mechanics of it, so they just keep getting hurt by it over and over with different people, thinking it's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. And patterns can be understood. This one is less talked about and it's a little uncomfortable, so stay with me. Sometimes pulling away isn't fear, it's an unconscious test. Not a manipulative, calculated game, more like an old survival habit. If I step back, will they still be here? Will they chase? Will they get angry? Will they disappear too? This usually comes from people who were let down early, by a parent, a past partner, a friendship, anyone who taught them that closeness eventually leads to abandonment. So without even meaning to, they recreate the conditions of abandonment, just to see if this time is different. It's not fair to you. It's genuinely not your job to pass someone else's emotional test. But understanding that this is what's happening can save you from internalizing it as your fault. If you find yourself constantly trying to prove your worth to someone who keeps stepping back just far enough to make you reach for them, that's information. Not about your value, about the shape of the dynamic you're in. Quick pause, if you want the full breakdown on attachment styles and how to recognize yours in seconds, I made a video on exactly that. Subscribe so it shows up in your feed because understanding your own pattern is honestly the fastest way to stop attracting this exact situation. Sometimes it really is this simple. You and this person are moving at different emotional speeds, and neither of you has said so out loud. Attraction doesn't come with a shared timeline. One person can feel ready to build something real within 3 weeks. The other might need 3 months just to trust the feeling is real. Neither one is wrong, but when the faster person keeps accelerating and the slower person feels pressure building, the natural response is to hit the brakes, sometimes so hard it looks like total disinterest. This is where a lot of people misread the signs completely. They see the pulling away and assume it means not interested, when really it means interested but not ready to match this exact speed. The tricky part is, from the outside, pace mismatch and genuine disinterest can look identical in the first few days. That's exactly why we need to talk about how to actually tell them apart, which is coming up in a minute, so don't go anywhere. Okay, this is the one I promised you at the start. Some people have such a deeply held belief that they don't deserve a good relationship, that when one starts to actually show up, they unconsciously destroy it before it can prove them wrong. It sounds almost backwards, right? Why would anyone sabotage something good? But think about it from a self-protection angle. If you believe deep down that you're going to end up hurt or abandoned eventually, then ending it early on your own terms feels safer than waiting for the inevitable pain later. It's the nervous system trying to control the timing of the loss, since it's convinced the loss is coming either way. This is often invisible even to the person doing it. They'll tell you and genuinely believe that they just got busy or things felt off, when what's really happening is an old belief system quietly protecting itself from disappointment by preventing the good thing from continuing. If you recognize this in someone you're seeing, or honestly, if you recognize it in yourself, that's not something you fix by chasing harder or trying to be more. That kind of pattern usually needs the person to notice it themselves, ideally with real reflection or support, not with someone else convincing them they're worthy. If you just realize this might describe you and not the other person, comment "me" below. I promise you're not the only one, and honestly, that's one of the bravest things you can admit. And hit like while you're at it. It really does help this reach the people who need it. Now, I promised you the honest version of this video, not just the comforting one. So let's talk about the reason that isn't about fear at all. Sometimes someone pulls away because the interest genuinely fades. Maybe the initial spark was more about novelty than real connection. Maybe something came up that changed how they see the situation, a realization about compatibility, timing, or simply what they want. Maybe they met someone else. Maybe they're just not built for consistency, period, and this has nothing to do with you specifically. This is the version people struggle to accept the most because it's the least flattering. It's easier to believe they're scared of how much they like me than they simply stopped being that interested. But healing and clarity come from being able to hold both possibilities without automatically picking the one that hurts less in the moment. So how do you actually know which one you're dealing with? That's next, and this is the part I really want you to pay attention to. Here are the signs that someone is pulling away because they're scared, not because they've lost interest. 1. The pulling away happens right after a moment of real closeness, not randomly, but specifically after vulnerability, a deep conversation, or an emotional peak. 2. When you do talk, the warmth is still there, distant in frequency but not distant in tone. They still ask about your day, they still remember details. The quality of attention hasn't dropped, only the quantity. 3. They come back. Not immediately, not predictably, but they circle back with effort, a message, a thinking about you, an attempt to reconnect without you having to chase. 4. They talk about the future in small, almost accidental ways, mentioning plans that include you weeks from now, even while currently being distant in the present. Now here are the signs it's genuinely fading, not fear, just disinterest. 1. The warmth is gone, not just the frequency. Replies feel flat, obligatory, short, even when they do respond. 2. There's no effort to reconnect, ever. All the initiating is coming from your side consistently with nothing coming back. 3. They make themselves available for everything except you. You can see them posting, active, clearly not too busy, just not busy for you specifically. 4. When you bring up the distance directly, they minimize it, get vague, or avoid the conversation altogether instead of engaging with it honestly. The single biggest differentiator is this: fear creates inconsistency with continued warmth. Disinterest creates consistency in coldness. Fear looks like waves. Disinterest looks like a flat line. Okay, if that distinction just made something click for you, that's exactly why I make these. Hit like right now so I know this kind of breakdown is actually helping. It genuinely tells me what to make next. So let's say you've identified it. What now? If it's fear-based pulling away, the worst thing you can do is chase harder. Chasing confirms the exact threat their nervous system is reacting to. That closeness means losing control, losing space, being overwhelmed. Instead, give space without disappearing emotionally. Stay warm when you do interact. Don't punish them for the distance, but don't erase your own needs either. You can say, simply and without accusation, "I noticed some distance, no pressure, just wanted to check in." That's it. One honest sentence, not a paragraph of anxiety. If it's a pace mismatch, communicate your actual timeline, gently, and ask about theirs. You'd be surprised how many pull-aways resolve the second someone says out loud, "I don't need this to move fast, I just want to know we're both still here." Naming the mismatch usually dissolves the pressure that was causing it. If it's self-sabotage on their part, this one is hard to hear, but it's true. You cannot love someone out of a belief that they don't deserve love. You can be patient, you can be consistent, but the actual shift has to come from them. Your job is to protect your own peace while they do or don't do that work. If it's genuine disinterest, and I say this with real care, the fastest path to feeling better is accepting it, not decoding it. Every hour spent analyzing someone who has already emotionally left is an hour taken away from someone who would actually show up consistently without needing to be chased at all. And here's something worth remembering, no matter which category applies. Someone pulling away is never actually information about your worth. It's information about their internal wiring, their history, their readiness. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's capacity for closeness. One more thing before we wrap up, because I think this matters more than people realize. Pay attention to your own reaction when someone pulls away. Does it make you more interested? Does the distance somehow make them more magnetic? If chasing distant people is a repeating pattern in your life, that's worth sitting with. Sometimes we're drawn to the pull away not despite the uncertainty, but because of it. Because certainty for some of us has never actually felt safe either. That's its own conversation for its own video, but I wanted to plant that seed here because real change usually starts with noticing the pattern in ourselves, not just in the other person. Here's a quick practical tool before we close out. If you're not sure whether someone's distance is fear or disinterest, try this. Send one warm, low-pressure message. Not, "Why are you being distant?" Not 3 paragraphs, just something simple like sharing something that reminded you of them, or a casual check-in. Watch the response, not just the words, the tone. A scared person, even if slow to reply, usually responds with warmth, sometimes even relief. A disinterested person responds flat, brief, or not at all. The message itself is neutral. It's the reaction that tells you everything. So, the next time someone shows real interest and then suddenly pulls back, I want you to pause before you spiral. Ask yourself, is this warmth with distance, or is this cold and consistent? Is this fear, mismatched pace, an old wound, or is it simply someone who isn't that invested? You deserve clarity, not just intensity. You deserve someone whose actions and warmth stay consistent, not just someone who feels exciting because they're hard to hold on to. If this video helped you make sense of something that's been confusing you, do 3 things for me. Hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's video, tap that like button, and tell me in the comments, was this fear, pace, self-sabotage, or genuine disinterest in your situation? I read every single comment, and honestly, some of the best future videos come straight from what you tell me down there. I'll see you in the next one.